The views on a Breath of Fresh Air podcast reflects the parties involved, and we encourage you all to use it as a conversational tool that will lead to personal studies of your own.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Welcome to a Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Here with your hosts, Earl Roberts and Nakhaz Gay. As a young person, Christianity can be so foggy, like smoke in the mirrors and so unclear. But we're here to bring you a breath of fresh air.
Solomon, I guess it's true what they say.
And what do they say, my dear?
It's that you love the Moabites less than any of your wives.
But that's absurd. And that's just not true.
Well, why don't we get the privileges of your other wives?
You're obviously upset about something. Could you please just be upfront with me?
Well, the daughter of Pharaoh has her own house. You worship Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians. You also praise Milcom, the god of the Ammonites. You even built a high place for Molech, the god of the Ammonites. But nothing for Shamash, the god of the Moabites.
We spoke about this. But if it means that much to you, you could have expressed that to me. You didn't have to do all of
Yes,
this.
that's all I've been asking for since we've been married. But you spend so much time with all of your other wives.
Enough. Okay. I'm older now, and I just want to keep the peace. So I will tell my attendants to build a high place for the Moabite god first thing in the morning.
Thank you, babe. I knew you would come through for me.
They say that love can make a person do crazy things. But really, how crazy can love truly make a person? This week we begin 1 Kings chapter 11 and discuss King Solomon's many wives. As always, be blessed and enjoy. All right, welcome back to another episode of a Breath of Fresh Air podcast with your hosts,
Nakhaz Gay.
Earl Roberts. We appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you like our content, please hit that like button, that subscribe button, that rating button. If you're listening on a streaming platform, definitely check us out on YouTube and hit the subscribe button. And also, if you like our content, please share it with a friend. I ain't going to tell you how much friends to share it with, but just share it with a friend at least. We definitely appreciate that. We appreciate all our listeners, our weekly listeners, everyone who tunes in. We definitely appreciate the support, and we I guess love you guys. I don't want to say I guess, but it's like, almost feels cliche. It almost feels cliche to say it, that kind of way. Yeah. It's like you see other YouTubers on podcasts say, "Oh yeah, I love my fans, I love like my listeners and stuff like that," and it's just like I'm like, "Oh wow, I'm turning into that guy now." But yeah, man. Hopefully everyone's having a great week. And I mean, this episode's coming out like mid-February. So now hopefully like everyone just taking stock, like the year is moving by pretty quickly. I feel like, at least for me. But like even this week today, I was like, man, I wouldn't say exhausted, but like, you feel like you're like kind of overwhelmed, right? But like, I feel like it's always a good time to take a step back to appreciate what God has done for you, what he's brought you through, appreciate his goodness. And to me, like every time I feel like when I get like, man, today's been like a long day. This week has been a long week. And when I feel like I'm starting to say that too repetitively, consecutively, that's why I need to start taking a step back and like just appreciating God's goodness, because it's easy for us to get like, so caught up in the rat race, as I call it, the everyday life, work, going to the gym, doing workouts, trying to like trace your dreams, your goals, your businesses, whatever else you got going on, like other side projects and everything. And it's so like it's so like consecutive, so fast paced. You're just trying to keep up and you just get overwhelmed. But yeah, man, I just like to take a step back. Encourage everyone to take a step back, take up some time this weekend when you're listening to it or throughout your day. Just reflect on God, man. Reflect on God's goodness, His grace, His mercy, everything He's done for you, every place He's brought you from to this point, and knows that He still has a plan for you. It's funny, like, in Proverbs, can't remember where, but in Proverbs it says, like, like man plans, but God has His own like thing for us as well. And in Jeremiah, that's what He definitely says, I have a plan for you. And for me, it's just encouraging to know that, even though I'm doing all of this, God has you where you need to be when you need to be there. So sometimes appreciate where you are. You definitely might not be where you want to be, but it's always good to take stock and see how far you've come from. And just know that, hey, if I've come from that far, I know I can eventually make it to my destination. But God just has me in a place right now where I might need to learn some things. I might need to go through some storms and some tribulations. It's not going to be fun, but God has you where you need to be for when you need to be there.
Amen to that, bro. Amen to that.
So yeah, this week we are going to start 1 Kings 11, but there was something in last week's episode that we didn't touch on. We were supposed to come back to it, but we went off on some side tangents, some still good conversation. But I mean, we talked about the woman with the issue of blood. We had all kind of things going on last week episode, but hopefully you guys enjoyed that. But so this week we're actually going to take a step backwards to go back to 1 Kings 10, touch on an important point and discuss it and unpack that a little bit for our listeners. And then we're going to start 1 Kings 11. And 1 Kings 11 has a lot going on, a lot of different storylines. It's a packed chapter. So our aim is to get through at least half of it. So we might do this chapter in 2 episodes. We haven't done that in a while. I feel like have to go back to like those Genesis and Exodus days when you was like, doing Genesis, we're doing like half a chapter because like this is just the story, and then
I know how we was doing that. I don't know how we even do that, bro.
Because Genesis was like so packed with like just individual stories, versus now we're more in like a big storyline.
Yeah, Genesis is a phenomenal book, and to get to the individual story points, bro. Like these stories, and they start and end like these stories have closure, and then we move on to the next one. Like, man, it's crazy.
Yeah. So I am going to read from 1 Kings chapter 10, verse 14. And this is talking about like just for full recap. Last week, some of the biggest things was the Queen of Sheba came and visited Solomon. And then we really got in last week's episode in 1 Kings 10, a peek behind the curtain to see how wealthy Solomon truly was. Excuse me. So after the Queen of Sheba left, we see in verse 14 the weight of gold that Solomon received yearly. So this was like, almost think of yearly base salary was 666 talents. And we converted that into like this modern day currency last week is like over $1 billion a year that Solomon was receiving in today's modern time. But the most important thing we want to unpack in this section is the 666 and the symbology behind that and kind of what that means, because typically when people think of 666, they really and truly only think of when it's most famously mentioned, and that's in Revelation. Do you have like which text that is in Revelation?
I think it's Revelation off the top. I think it's Revelation 13 verses 13. I don't know. I think it's Revelation 12 or 13 though. Let me see.
Yeah. So while you find that, so I read this. So the weight of gold that Solomon received yearly was 666 talents, not including revenues from merchants and traders and from all the Arabian kings and governors and territories. And so, you got it yet?
Yeah, Revelation 13 verse 18.
Clutch.
on the money.
Clutch. So read it for listeners.
Okay. So I pulled this up and I don't know which version this was. I'm sorry, let me just find the appropriate version.
And just to kill some time, the book is actually called Revelation and not Revelations. You know, you all probably
Just in
already knew
case
this.
people, like where the revelations came from.
I don't know, maybe assuming because there's more than one, or maybe just one continuous revelation. But anywho, let me see. I'm gonna take this from verse 15. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Mercy. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Verse 18, here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666.
Bing.
And yeah,
Go
so
for it.
now, and so what's so interesting, bro, I just thought about this randomly. So when people, you remember we had that conversation about like casting out demons and exorcisms, and whenever you think of exorcisms, you usually think about this priest with a crucifix, and it's some type of vampire-esque thing that's going on. It's such a dark thing. Whereas we don't think of it the way you think about when people leave a hospital, or when someone is healed, or when somebody does not have cancer anymore. When people ring the bell and it's so beautiful, you could cry watching that because this person is cancer-free. They are free of an ailment. When people think about someone being free of a demon, they act as if you say, this person got the demon. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real, bro. And I feel like that's just how Hollywood and, it's just how the devil just wanted to deceive, as if there's some bad thing, some evil, wicked thing. No, Jesus himself casted out demons, bro. This is a beautiful thing because someone is being free, you know what I'm saying, from their bondage. And that's just a tangent. But also when we think about this number, it's like, I remember as a child, I didn't even want to say this number. As if this was some, you know what I mean? As if there's some spell that's happening, But
it's like taboo.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so taboo. So even I remember, a lot of people superstitious. I remember, I heard a story. A family member of mine was in the States, and they what's it called? They were shopping, and their price tag, their total came up to $666. I don't know if it's $66.06 or $6.66. I don't know. There's some combination of that. You know what I'm saying? And the cashier was kind of spooky, just like, yo, buy something else or take something off. You know what I mean? Like, this is some type of bad luck or something, And it's like, bro, truthfully, the book of Revelation ain't that. It's not like some type of scary thing, bro. It's like a warning. It's prophecy. This is what the future is like. You know what I'm saying? This is what is going to be happening in the future. And so, Revelation is the last prophetic book in the Bible. But Revelation and Daniel have very much similarities. Sometimes you might see a story or a vision in Daniel. The same vision is in Revelation, but it is portrayed a different way. But it's the same vision and it has the same meaning. Namely, I'm talking about the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, and that's in Daniel, and then in Revelation they have the beast, stuff like that. They mean the same thing.
That's what a beast represents. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to get into. And so I'm going to take it from a different angle. And I believe you have, a different angle. They both necessary for you to understand. When, remember, this is further along in the Bible than we are at now. Like, I think in the book of 2 Kings, we might kind of get to this area, but Israel was conquered by the Babylonians. And even from a historical standpoint, Babylon had a mighty empire, and the ruler of Babylon was Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, right? And in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, there was this statue, head of gold, all of these things, right? Later on, Nebuchadnezzar take it among himself to say, yo, I gotta make this statue, but I ain't gonna make it head of gold, chest of silver, bronze, iron, all them stuff. No, I'm going to make it all gold and everybody going to worship it. So that's point number one. If we go back to Revelation chapter 15, chapter 13, verse 15, what I was saying that he was granted power to give, he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast. That image of the beast should not, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. And so this is a direct parallel to Babylon and the Nebuchadnezzar story. Nebuchadnezzar issued a decree: if you do not worship this beast, you will die. That's how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego end up in the fire. You understand what I'm saying? But even, you know how that story ended. It's a beautiful story. Mm-hmm. And later on, after all of this, after Nebuchadnezzar had this encounter with Daniel and Daniel's God, after he see the fourth person who looked like the Son of Man in the fire with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Daniel came to Nebuchadnezzar and was like, yo, I think Daniel was describing another dream. I think it's the dream of the trees and stuff like that. But he was telling Nebuchadnezzar, bro, God rules everything, right? And the reason why you're blessed to be in this position is because God permitted that. You know, remember that. Nebuchadnezzar, one day he walked in on his roof. He looked down and said, look at everything that I created. Mm-hmm. And snap, just like that, God turned him into a beast. He was a human, but he walked on all fours. He did not shave. He did not shower. He could not communicate. He ate grass. He slept outside. He became a beast. And the moral of the story is, not really the moral, but one thing to note is that when men get so hungry on power, they are not able to act like human beings or act rational. They act like beasts. Men, especially the kings of the earth, the kings of the world, they want to have control to the point where they don't want you to worship God. They want you to worship themselves. Just like Nebuchadnezzar. He had this statue. Y'all can't worship God. Nebuchadnezzar, no, this was a pagan nation. They had all type of gods, right? He knew that he had captured Israelites, but he wanted them to worship him. You feel me? Just like that. And so now, I just wanted to paint the picture of beast, you know what I'm saying, and mark of the beast. Now, we have Solomon to make it relevant to our story. We have a man, Solomon, who was very wise. He was the richest in the world, right? Mm-hmm. He had formed many alliances, right? And they were saying that his annual salary is the amount of the mark of the beast. But it's so interesting. It's like, oh, no, man, this is a man of God. It can't be nothing related between the two. But guess what? There's another man who was power hungry, who was money hungry, and who took everything into his own hands as if he created this thing. And the reason why I'm saying that is because a few chapters from now, we're going to talk about Solomon's son, Rehoboam.
Mercy.
And the Israelites requested to him, saying, Rehoboam, reduce the taxes. Reduce the taxes, please. Rehoboam spoke to the elders, and the elders said, yeah, you should do that. And Rehoboam was like, oh, you think my daddy taxes was high? My taxes could be even crazier, which implies that Solomon, who should not have been multiplying his money, was levying a heavy tax on people. So this yearly salary that he was getting, this was from businesses and stuff, yes, but for sure, most definitely, he was getting a lot of his money from taxing God's people. You know what I mean? From taxing the people and just being kind of like I don't want to call him a tyrant, but just trying to kind of being like a serious ruler, you know?
No, I mean, that's a powerful lesson in itself. Like, and to me, context matters. And so the context you just laid out was very important to understand in the symbology. Because think about this, man. This thing was written thousands of years, quite literally, before John wrote Revelation. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like this is literally the first instance where 666 is mentioned in the Bible, spelt out. And in Hebrew, words have meanings. I mean, numbers have meanings, and they kind of coincide with words, but that's a story for a different day. But right here, to me, I always think about nothing's in the Bible by chance. and the symbology that is driven between now and even the Revelation end time 666 is it's kind of a nice little symmetry and kind of poetic, because think about it now. Like, for one, I was telling you like last week when we was talking about this, like, some people might have in their head like, the Antichrist is going to be so evil from like birth. You know what I'm saying? But we look at Solomon. Solomon started pretty good.
Yeah, Solomon was chill.
Solomon had a great reign, like so much so like it wasn't as tumultuous as David's reign, really and truly. Like we
ain't got no scandals on him,
So like we kind of complained like, Solomon kind of boring, but that's how it should be, right? But like we both to get into some of Solomon stuff in this chapter, but like Solomon started off pretty good, knowing what to do, knowing what not to do, but still along the way got involved in things he shouldn't have been involved in and kind of started to lose his way and got corrupted with the money, the power, the greed. And again, like absolute power absolutely corrupts. And so now we see this king who is looking around and taking stock of everything that he built. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, it's God who gave him the authority and the power to build these things, but he's saying, no, look at these things I built outside of the temple. We know he has a home that rivals the beauty of the temple. He has built all these different walls and stuff to surround the city of Jerusalem. He has also built a palace for his wives and some of his other wives. These different things we hear about the garden of I forget, the forest of Lebanon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the forest of Lebanon. And these other works that we see Solomon do. His throne room with the lions and the gold and everything, like, decadent. And so we know Solomon really was feeling himself. Plus, you're making all of this money that you're overly indulging in. And we're going to see, you're eating these very lavish meals every day. You know what I'm saying? And so when you start to look around, you see Solomon really was starting to become very prideful. And we're going to dig deep into that. When we see, like, we talked about a couple of chapters ago, he made slaves out of some of the foreign people when God never even told him to do that. So Solomon's really starting to take his own initiative to execute certain things that he wanted done versus what God wanted to do. And so, yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So, and it's like, it's kind of jumping the gun, but all of the things in the Bible have already happened. All the narratives have already happened. Everything, the only things left is prophecy and stuff. But so, you could kind of jump the gun because, it's out here, I ain't spoiling nothing for real, but with the Daniel and Revelation parallel, the statue of Nebuchadnezzar, they are different metals. Those metals represent different nations, right? But one thing is for sure, that they were ruled by kind of tyrant-esque leaders, leaders that act like beasts because they were so power hungry. They were hungry to be seen as a god, seen as a leader, seen as they just was hungry for power. And so we know what Nebuchadnezzar was like, there are not too many, well, at the beginning, because, at the end of the story, Nebuchadnezzar gave his life to God and stuff like that. But before that, the beastly Nebuchadnezzar, there's not too many similarities between him and David. David had his downfalls, but the man did not act like a beast. You know what I'm saying? This was a man of honor, But I can't say the same about Solomon. But like, it's just, to me, it is so uncanny that they mention the amount of money that this man was getting in yearly, considering that he had slaves, considering that he was doing things that was against the Torah to even get money, namely the chariots and stuff like that, considering that he had alliances with these other people. And when we get to this chapter, we're going to see some of the reasons why he could have strong alliances with, other nations, you know what I'm saying? And then we get we get the total number, and it's the same as the mark of the beast. Like, to me, like, how coincidental is that? Considering one of the main beasts in the Bible that was named to be a beast, and we understand this nation was a beast, but Babylon and Nebuchadnezzar, we can see the similarities between him and them, And then when we go throughout the other beasts, we can see the commonalities. And now, not to be confused though, different nations had different beasts. The beast before us, the beast before this era was the Roman Empire. now we in the feet, which is iron and clay. You know what I'm saying? That's just a remix of the Roman Catholicism type beast power. You know, and that's something we're gonna get in depth when they get to Daniel. We might pivot and get there before. I heard somebody say, like, in order to know the beast, and like I heard somebody say, like, in order to know, if you see a footprint, right, in the forest, in order to know the footprint, you got to know the beast.
Got to know the nature of the beast.
You got to know the nature of the beast. In order to know like, if you see a bear, you know his footprint because you know what a bear's foot looks like. You know what I'm saying? And so you know the characteristics of a beast, and just completely being honest, when we look at the way that Solomon's life trended downward, like, he did have characteristics of that, although he was not named the beast power in the Bible, but we could see where he was actually, leaning more towards that and being a follower after his father's footsteps.
That's a big fact. Yeah, so now we could get into the actual chapter for this week's episode. Chapter 11 of 1 Kings. I will read from the New King James Version. But King Solomon, so granted, right after, like, reading from chapter 10, it kind of just flows in. So the end of chapter 10, we say he's multiplying horses for himself from Egypt, which, we shouldn't be doing. So remember, a lot of these things right now we're going to see is in the backdrop of understanding Deuteronomy, as we said in last week's episode, because a lot of these things that we're going to see comes in direct opposition to what was said in Deuteronomy. But Solomon loved for himself many foreign women, as well as a daughter of Pharaoh. So we see he had Pharaoh's daughter, who we know who was his wife. But outside of that, he had loved many foreign women. How much, you might ask? And where from? Women of the Moabites, the Ammonites, the Edomites, the Sidonians, and the Hittites. Sound like a lot of the people God tell them to get rid of.
Yep.
And so in verse 2, the author made sure from the nations of whom the Lord had said to the children of Israel, you shall not intermarry with them, nor they with you. Surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods. And so then we see Solomon clung to these in love. And he had 700 wives, princesses, and 300 concubines. And his wives turned away his heart. Mercy.
All right, so just a parallel. That's a quote from Deuteronomy 7. It says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land which you go to possess and has cast out many nations before you, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. And when the Lord your God delivers them over to you, you shall conquer them and utterly destroy them. You shall make no covenant with them, nor show mercy to them, nor shall you make marriages with them. You shall not give your daughter to their son, nor take their son not take their daughter for your son. For they will turn your sons away from following me to serve other gods. So the anger of the Lord will be aroused against you and destroy you suddenly. Oh, but thus you shall deal with them. You shall destroy their altars and break down their sacred pillars and cut down their wooden images and burn their carved images with fire. Yes, and God goes on to say how they are to be, the Israelites at the time, set apart, chosen people. You know what I'm saying? And so, once again, I can't give. Sometimes we talk and we be like, but your boy never know. He might not have known. He might not have known. Like some of the judges, we're like, he might not have known. He might not have known any better. Solomon knew better.
He definitely knew better.
The wisest man knew better. And you know what's interesting?
And the matter of fact is to get read to them every day. He knows better.
Right. Exactly. But my thing is, you've spoken to God. You've spoken to God.
Directly.
Directly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember enough times a prophet come to David and tell him, hey, God say this. You know what I mean? Now, God spoke to David as well. But a couple of times a prophet say this. The prophet said that, like, imagine, like with Saul, right? Prophet Samuel was there straight through to give him messages, right? Imagine if Solomon had never spoken to God personally, I could see theoretically where there could be doubt. But number one, you spoke to God directly multiple times. He grant you with a wisdom that you didn't have growing up. You didn't have this type of wisdom until you became king, And so you have no reason to distrust God. You have very tangible evidence, of God. And then your father worshiped God, His father, you probably come from a long line up to Boaz. I don't know before that, of God-fearing men.
Exactly.
And so I would assume that God know what he's talking about when he say, yo, your son shouldn't marry these people, these women from these nations, or they will turn your hearts away from God and you will worship idols. That's just how it is. God understand. God understand he understand the pressure you would be under or the circumstance or how enticing, it would be. But Solomon was so wise, he felt like, I can handle it.
Exactly. That's the thing right there. When you say money, surely they can't swing me. You know what I'm saying? I could take this on. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like when you put yourself in the predicament to get swing.
Yeah.
And that's what Solomon do. I can handle this. I don't gotta worry. Yeah, God say this, but I know better. You know what I'm saying? This is what the Bible says, lean not onto your own understanding.
Yeah, I got this. I can handle this, man.
Mercy.
I mean, God say that, right? But he teased when he talking to people who isn't strong in their faith. You know what I mean? Someone like me, no, I'm strong in mine. You know what I mean? This he ain't get me. He ain't get me. But one thing I wanted to mention though.
Go for it.
So we know for a fact that Solomon married the daughter of the Pharaoh. That's what I'm saying. That's a alliance. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? We see that all throughout history. Not Israelite history. Like Israel, they were marrying family members, people close to, when Abraham, what was it? Abraham was like, bro, don't get my son no wife out of Canaan, bro. You gotta go back to
exactly.
You know what I mean? You gotta go to a land where they making sense. You gotta go back to our hometown. You gotta get a God-fearing woman type of situation, right? Solomon married women. I ain't gonna project, but considering that he married the Pharaoh's daughter, I'm inclined to believe that a lot of these women, notice they call all type of, bro, they ain't even mention no Israelite women in this, bro. They say specifically the Hittites, the Sidonians, the Edomites. Solomon, he making sure his alliance is straight with everyone, bro. That's what I take from it. Considering this a man of power, considering this a man who have all type of business deals in place, all the kings sorting after him, Solomon making sure he could do business and everything chill with everyone. All right. Yeah. So before we close on this deal, I need a little incentive. I need a sign-on bonus.
Mercy.
What is this? Oh yeah, just give me one of your daughters. You know what I mean? Give me the princess. You feel me? So our houses can be forever
intertwined. Yeah.
And ain't nobody gonna cut nobody off. You know what I mean? Because we intertwined through marriage.
Bro, but 1,000 though?
It can't justify the number.
1,000, bro? Okay, that would make sense if he was talking 6.
Yeah.
I would understand. Valuable argument. I get it. Still wrong. But 1,000? Bro, yeah. Clearly he had to be the richest man in the world.
Oh, for sure.
Because you can't give 1,000 women attention.
No.
You can't give 1,000 women affection.
No.
I'd
be impressed if you could give 100 women attention and no affection, bro. I'd be thoroughly impressed, bro.
Bro, I mean, and listen, even to make light of it, but quite honestly, he can go 3 years, almost 3 years without seeing, having a different lady every day, bro.
Mm-hmm.
That is mind blowing.
I used to think about that, bro. I used to think about that as a child. I'm like, bro, when do you have time See, and my thing is,
and still running a country.
all right, this, right? I'm gonna be real for a second, bro. You want woman every day, bro, but you don't take a break. You know what I mean? Like, ain't no day you like, I'm chilling today. You know what I'm saying? Like, that much woman, bro, that have to be a daily, bro. Like, this, like eating, like this, like food to me. Like, this a part of my day. Like, you know what I mean?
Bro,
like,
1,000 names? I mean, at this point, are you even remembering names?
Bro, for real. I mean, it's the wisest man, so I wouldn't put it past him, but
Like, I don't see he's so wise. Do you think this was a good idea?
See, but that's my thing. That's my thing, though.
Like, when he write Proverbs?
It would have to be, I believe all this happened before, but I believe he write all these things. But the only thing I believe he might have written in his old age is Ecclesiastes. That's the only thing, bro. This fella right here, he couldn't have write no. He couldn't
trust
have
in the Lord.
No, bro. That was when things was bro. This is what I'm saying. The idea of these things is whatever, right? But the action that he's doing, to me, this is implying that you are intentionally trying to provoke God. Because you not only broke his laws, his decrees, you shattered them, all of them. It's like every Achilles heel that you had, you going hard or going home. You know, I ain't doing no little sin. I ain't missing sinning. I going big time. Oh, you say don't multiply women? Oh, I can show you multiply women. My daddy had but 7. Oh, I want like 700, 800. You know what I mean? Like, I want 1,000 wives. And then I ain't even gonna make all your wives. I want concubines. Come on. Like, come on, bro.
Like what you even need a concubine for if you already have 300 wives?
For real, bro. You know what I mean? Like, and then the money.
700 wives, my apologies.
Yeah. So the trampling the money. You're going to Egypt for horses, bro. You making all this money just off taxes and things. But you going to Egypt for horses too. You know what I mean? Like, I just feel like this was like I trying to offend you, God. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, some things justifiable, you know. This like I intentionally I don't rock with you, God. Like I'm not feeling you. I doing everything my way. And to be fair though, I mean, to add a little more context to it, when you around all of these pagans all this time, bro, they probably showing you how they doing everything your God say not to do, and they living a good life, and you thinking about it like, I don't know. This might make sense. He might not be the only God out there for me. You know?
And so this, and that's what I was going to get at too next, is like historically, if you had a large harem of women, so we see typically kings have like, you know, their court, but they have like these bunch of females. It was like a status symbol in ancient times to show like, look how much women I could support type thing. So again, he let the influences from not only his wives, but influences from the other nations get to him, and he wants to be large and in charge. I got all this money. Let me show you all I really have all this money, because I could support 1,000 women and still be, you know, stunting on you guys, for lack of a better terminology right now in my mind. I can show you guys like I am the best king out here, no matter what.
Consider the strain that this put on the Israelites.
No, exactly.
Because we don't hear about it until Rehoboam, and this is gonna be very interesting to dive into, like how the citizens felt about all of this. Sheba come around and all the people love you, this and that and the third, right? But you taxing us heavy so you can support all these women. This ain't doing nothing. This ain't doing nothing for us. Like, everybody getting money, right? But everybody's spending plenty of money too, bro. You know what I mean? A lot of money coming in and coming out, bro. We get taxed now. I don't know anybody who's happy about it. As a matter of fact, like, the more rich people are, the more they find ways that they don't have to pay their taxes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like, I know Solomon, bro. Solomon is a big timer. Solomon ain't no little timer, bro. Solomon is a big baller.
And he was not afraid to spend his money.
No.
Clearly. So we see it also says like for Solomon and his wives to turn away his heart. And so now we've seen the end. the same thing God warned did come to pass. And now we're going to like delve into even deeper, like, okay, like how bad did it get? So in verse 4, for it was so that when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods. And it's interesting, look how the Bible makes this distinction, specifically when he was old, that his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not loyal to the Lord his God, as was the heart of his father David. For Solomon went after the Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and after Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord, and did not fully follow the Lord, as did his father David. He built a high place for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, on the hill that is east of Jerusalem, and for Melech, the abomination of the people of Ammon. And he did likewise for all his foreign wives, who burnt incense and sacrificed to their gods.
Let me tell you something, bro. I was reading that thing called Prophets and Kings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know why I'd say the same, I paraphrase him. She said, the same man who saved a baby from going to the wrong mother, you know, who makes sure this baby going to the right mother, who cared that much, was now erecting altars for child sacrifices. And I was like, what you talking about, right? So now I'm about to read something real quick. Leviticus 20, verse 2 to 5, it says, again, you shall say to the children of Israel, whoever of the children of Israel or of the strangers who dwell in Israel, who gives any of his descendants to Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will set my face against that man. I will cut him off from his people, because he has given some of his descendants to Molech to defile my sanctuary and profane my name. And if the people of the land should in any way hide their eyes from the man, when he gives some of his descendants to the neck, and they do not kill him, then I will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut him off from his people, and all who prostitute themselves with him to commit harlotry with Molech. So this Leviticus 20, where they talking about how Molech, the god, people offered child sacrifices to Molech. And God was basically saying how much of an abomination, and you got to stone people who given their children to Molech. Now, I don't say that Solomon gave any children, right? But you know what it say? Solomon built an altar for Molech. Now, I can tell you for a fact what used to be happening on altars to Molech. Now, I ain't saying for a fact that has happened on that altar that he built, but I telling you what God say about when people given over to Molech. Molech like children. You see what I'm saying? That's what people is give to that God. You know?
And I mean, just look at the context from the Bible. Realize they only really refer to one as a goddess, but everything else was just a straight up abomination.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because usually when they say Baal, or like Baal was like, you know, the gods of the whoever, small g or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, Shemoth, abomination. Molech, abomination.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like they wasn't even playing around like, no, Solomon, this wasn't no, hey, you turn away from me, what you going like to the furthest extreme you could go? You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting too, I mean, because, you know, it's a common misconception that as you get older, you get wiser, right?
Yeah.
But we could clearly see Solomon was wiser in his younger years than his older years. I mean, and I ain't even trying to be funny with it.
Yeah,
because age doesn't automatically equate to wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because some like you who was young and wasn't doing these things, because you definitely knew better. Now in your old age, you want to come and do fool? You ever see an old timer who is like in their old ages when they decide they don't want to like follow Christ no more and they want to leave the church and stuff? And I just be like, I get it. Like, I mean, I would say I get it, right? But I'm like, now is the time when you want to do foolishness? Like at the end of your life? When you, to me, I feel like it's the time we're supposed to be trying to be getting right. You know what I'm saying? Like he's supposed to be, this is the time when he's supposed to be taking stock. Like, Lord, maybe I really don't need these wives. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, all of them, I overdid it. And it's interesting too, man, because like the Bible say, he didn't wholly follow after God like his father David, right?
Mhm.
And like the last time we really heard that, like that specific terminology was in Numbers, referring to like Joshua and Caleb when they was like fully following after God and they was like doing what was like, they was zealous for God. Everyone was like, no, we shouldn't be doing what we we don't need to enter the promised land and that kind of stuff. And Joshua and Caleb was like, no, we really should be doing this type thing. But that was like the last time, and it's a contrast here because we see like, again, we gave David a lot of flack because what he did was wrong, but we seeing the Bible making a big distinction here. David's heart was wholly after God. You know what I'm saying? So even when he was doing wrong, like we always showed, David would do wrong, but he would say, Bo, I need to repent. I would suffer the consequences as much as I hate them, but I still know I could be right with God at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Solomon, on the other hand, was not like his father David. He was quite honestly like his brothers.
That is true. But it's kind of interesting though, because we don't know that any of David's children really, I mean, I can't even say, because depending on where you are in Solomon's story, you would call him a man of God, you know what I mean? I do believe though that Solomon, last week we started to talk about how, knowing wisdom, having wisdom is one thing, but being wise or putting these thoughts into action is another thing. I might know that if I eat this, if I cheat on my diet, it's the outcome it's gonna have, and it's gonna set me back on my goals, But I might be like, I still want to do that. I want this cheesecake now. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like knowing and doing, two different things. So he was wise, Solomon was wise in that he knew, but he did not do, And I do believe that, all right, so I think about every singer that's a phenomenal singer. And I picked singing because it's a gift that you could tell that it's a gift. You practice singing all through your life, but for the most part, you're born. Like people who could sing like crazy, like the best singers you ever heard, they born with a gift already. It's a gift because you didn't earn this. You didn't work to do this. It's not like a muscle where you work it. I mean, your larynx is a muscle, but it's not like certain sports where you have to like golfing. You got to perfect your stroke and your form and all that. You born with a gift, even you might have worked on it or whatever. But a lot of our favorite singers, after a while, I don't know if they forget that they have a gift, but it becomes about them. Most artists, most people with talents, it becomes about them. They don't remember or they don't acknowledge that this was given to me from God. It's almost as if like, I don't know, this is just how I was built, you know what I'm saying? I just lucky, like it almost as if it didn't come from God, it's just life, you know what I'm saying? I got something you don't got, you got something I don't got, it is what it is, mine just so happen to be singing. But Solomon, I believe, he got to a point where his wisdom, and he know that if I come with a plan, it's going to work because I'm so smart, and he's stopped having to rely on God because he didn't have a need for God. Everything that I needed, I can handle, and it caused him not to be humble. And then Solomon, to me, it's dumb for you to be worshiping idols, right? But at the end of the day, as wise as Solomon is, or was, I don't believe that he was more wise than the devil, to be completely honest. And I ain't lying in the plane. I still just talking, and like I ain't trying to, you know what I mean?
No, I got you, because I got something that I want to say after that too, but keep going.
Yeah, I don't think he was wiser than the devil, you feel me? Angels are still more superior beings than humans, and the only way you can beat the devil is through God. If you go one-on-one with the devil, I don't care who you are, you're going to lose. You know what I'm saying? So I believe Solomon started to stray away from God, thinking I can handle everything because I'm so smart. And then the devil started hitting him with things that was above his mental capacity and his pay grade. Like, because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, we wrestle against demonic powers, bro. You feel me? Principalities, like spiritual wickedness in high places. You know what I'm saying? And so Solomon might have linked up with a woman. She might have been worse than the witch at Endor. She might have been talking to spirits one-on-one, and the spirits come out and talk to Solomon and tell Solomon all of this and that. Bro, among people who worship the devil in whatever form or religion, they believe that you can pick a side, that Jesus is a being and the devil is a being. You know what I'm saying? And it's like we wrestle against good and evil every day. There are a lot of people in the world, especially there's a lot of people who don't speak about this, who believe that the evil is just an alternative form of good and you can pick either or. You know what I'm saying? Like it go down to spirits. Like a lot of people, young people, they want to do the tarot card, they want to do the palm reading, they want to do the chakras, they want to do all these things because they inviting good spirits. You know what I mean? They ain't really thinking about the fact that one spirit, the Holy Spirit, and then God are telling you these things are abominable, and these are the people who actually created everything. You know what I mean? They ain't considering that. They just saying, hey, you could go with this side, you could go with that side. And so Solomon probably, I believe, got introduced to these different spirits and different gods, this polytheism from these pagans, and they end up hitting him with something that actually kind of makes sense in his too smart brain. And then he started to think, Jesus them, they cool and all, but these people, they cool too. The demons and all them, they cool too. And everything I asked for, they could give it to me too. And I think he probably ended up picking a side, like, well, yeah, I could worship them and I could do these things. And because you see these things working, I ain't gonna stand there and say, ain't nothing the devil do. Everything the devil do fails. No, there's plenty of things the devil do, and it comes to pass. Like people who casting spells and doing all type of witchcraft and things like that. But I don't want us to think for a second that these things are fake. They are not fake. You know what I'm saying? And biblically, I can show you that. Because when Moses was thrown on a staff, his turned into a snake. That was from God. But the other magicians, they throw on their snake, they staff too, and that surely did turn to a snake. You know what I'm saying? Someone who more inclined to already believe in the dark magic or the paganism, they might say, see, our gods cool too, And somewhere along the line, these things was convincing enough for Solomon to say, yeah, I'll try them out too. I'll try it out,
Agreed. I want to, before I say what I gotta say, let's just finish off this little, 5 more verses, then we could just start landing the plane from there. So, keeping up in verse 9, so the Lord became angry with Solomon, as we would naturally expect, because his heart had turned away from the Lord God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. I just love how this chapter just keeps on reaffirming everything that we should already know at this point too. And had commanded him concerning this thing, that he should not go after the other gods. But he did not keep what the Lord had commanded. Therefore the Lord said to Solomon, because you have done this, and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will surely tear away the kingdom from you and give it to your servant. Nevertheless, I will not do it in your days for the sake of your father David. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. We see how much respect and love God still had for David. David dead and gone.
Mercy.
You know what I'm saying? And this God Almighty. You know what I'm saying?
Solomon deserves punishment.
Exactly. And this even go back to God being just long suffering. He said, anyway, he said, I let you know what will happen after you die because of what you did. That's the next discussion too. But anyway, in this last verse, however, I will not tear away the whole kingdom. I will give one tribe to your son for the sake of my servant David and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. So for this week, we're going to end the reading right there. We're going to pick up in next week's episode with the rest of First Kings 11. But so some of the things I wanted to say on even the previous thing, right? Just look at it all, in totality, since you already finished reading the end. The power of sin, specifically lust, but sin in general. Because sin would have you doing things you never expected to be doing because you think you wouldn't be able to fall to the sin. And we see a lot of the patriarchs, a lot of the people we study in the Bible have found themselves in similar circumstances where they didn't think they would be here, but because of sin and leaning onto their own understanding, they found themselves there. And think about it, man. Solomon, we're going to get to his death probably next episode, right? But Solomon died around the age of 60 historically. He reigned for about 40 years. And we know these things happened in his old age. So what I'm saying is you don't accumulate 1,000 wives in a year.
No.
These wives were accumulation, but they were building up over time. But they didn't affect him until his old age.
Mm.
And it's like, it's not just a buildup, but again, Solomon playing tic-tac-toe and the devil playing 3D chess.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You think you're so wise, but the devil just slowly stacking the pawns on his side, saying, all right, this one gonna get him in about 25 years. This one gonna get him in 30. This one gonna get him in 35. Before he knows it, he has probably, and to your point earlier, how much of these people were Israelites? Let's just say, give him the fair benefit of the doubt. Let's just say he had 100 Israelite wives. And I think that might even be an exaggeration because the Bible made sure to emphasize how many wives of different nations he had. Let's say he had 100 Israelite wives. That means he still had 900 foreign influences that were still loyal to their culture, still loyal to their gods, and he had them in his household. So, buddy, quite honestly, you're outnumbered in your own house. And so now you older. You know, when you get older, shoot, we still in our 20s, and certain things, you don't want to hear too much argument and fussing, and then you're like, all right, whatever. Build you an altar, shoot, let's go over here in this hill and build you an altar. That's what you want?
Yeah. So you
sure. Cool.
Yeah.
And so imagine all this nagging, and I am not making excuses for Solomon, right? No. I'm just painting the picture so that in his old age was when the devil planted these pawns from his young age to affect him in his old age, to know that, hey, again, we was talking about Saul, how happy the devil was when he could have the leader of the Israelite nation bowing down to him in the which end all. Now think about this. The leader of the Israelite nation is sacrificing to multiple gods now. You know what I'm saying? Who believed and was leading the nation to worship the one true God. And now you're not only just worshiping Ashtoreth, you're worshiping Shemoth and Molech and doing child sacrifices as the leader of the Israelite nation of the one true people. Come on now. So now you find yourself in a place where we know we carry David way hard for his adulterous lifestyle. But David never, ever worshiped another God.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Because David knew how much of an abomination that would be to God. And David, he had 15 wives. I know some of them were like not from Israel either, but he ain't had 1,000.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then again, he never bowed down to any other foreign entity. You know what I'm saying? David was out there killing them. I mean, that's just full transparency. But Solomon, again, the leader, because I just want to paint the picture like how grave of a sin this was for him to be doing it. Old age is an excuse, but that just shows the power of the devil and the power of sin. To your point, a lot of people don't give the devil the credit he deserves, and we know our God is more powerful, but we need God to conquer the devil.
Right.
We can't conquer the devil on ourselves. And then some people say we are gods. Okay, whatever, but you can't forgive your own sins. So how much of a power is that? Right. Just saying.
Right, but that's a whole different conversation.
I know.
I was reading that chapter in Ezekiel where God was saying, oh, you are gods, right? But when I send people to kill you, will you still be a god because you are mortal? You know what I mean? We can't resurrect ourselves. You know what I mean? Bro, if you are God, you are immortal, bro. Like straight up, you know? And the thing about Solomon, he know it all. You know what I mean? He got all the money, this and that and the third. But when it hit the fan, God tell him, bro, only because of your father, only because of David, I even sparing you, bro, and you actually you're gonna live your life. You're gonna live a good life. Only because I promised your father, and I am not breaking my promise. But I want you to rest assured that your son will not have this kingdom. This kingdom will be taken away. And Nakhaz, I believe this is when Ecclesiastes was starting to be written. When God come to him, this appears to be the third time, because remember, God already came to him 2 times prior. Yep. And now this is another time God coming to him saying, bro, See, I tell you, don't play with these gods, and what you do? You play with these gods. You understand what I'm saying? God tell him that. God was like, bro, see, and that's the triple thing for me, bro. It ain't even like you had to read this. When God came to you and consecrate the temple, he say, yo, don't worship no other gods. You know what I mean? Solomon, when you was dedicating the temple, you talk about us going to other gods, bro. You talk about what's gonna happen. You talk about us getting taken away to foreign lands and famine, and you know what this was gonna bring. You know what this was gonna bring, you know? And so I feel like one of the most applicable lessons in this story is for us to know that we can make a God out of self, we can make a God out of prosperity, we can make a God out of success, you know? And it's like, you know, it's like what Jesus say, like it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of the needle than for a rich man to get to heaven. See, it's like you have to relinquish, like especially when you multiply and all of this money, you have to relinquish some of the power that you give God, you know. But now you relying more on the dollar, you know, and you see these things are proven. I'll pray to God, I don't know how I can pay my mortgage. The Lord will provide for me.
Amen.
But if I have a multi-million billion-dollar scheme, I can make the most myself. I don't even have to contact God, right? And my mortgage will be paid. So like the thing that you're looking for, it will actually come to pass. But it's like now I don't have a reason. Theoretically, I wouldn't have a reason to put my faith in God. The more power we have, it's like my boy Wilfredo Montalvo. Shout out to Wilfredo. He's on the show. I think the episode before the Witch Endor.
Yeah.
He have a song where it was saying, because he's a pastor and everything. He said, don't you know when you say no, you're saying yes to something else. You know what I'm saying? And I just that really resonated with me. Like I keep thinking about that because it's like you're not just making one choice, you're making two choices. You're making the choice to go this way, but you're making the choice also
not to go the other way.
Not to go the other way. You know what I'm saying? And so Solomon made a choice to be all powerful and to show people how powerful he is, how powerful power. And that caused him to slowly pull away from God. And when he decided to pull away from God completely, was when the devil decided to pull him in and to completely pull him in and pull him in and pull him in. And at the end, it was not worth it because God came and visited him and tell him, bro, you messed up, bro. And now there will be consequences for your actions. And to tie it all in, now that we have the full story of Solomon, Solomon was acting like a beast. Solomon was taxing people heavy. Solomon was doing everything. Bro, like when we talk about Deuteronomy 17, bro, all of the things that God told the kings not to do, Solomon did. Solomon was acting like he was his own God, bro. I don't have to answer to you, God. Like, imagine if God, right, wrote in Deuteronomy, right? Like he, God hand wrote the 10 Commandments and then he gave Moses instructions, civil instructions. Imagine if God said, hey, if your name's Nakhaz Gay, I want you to do this, that, and the third. And he gave me like 5 things. And not only did I disobey them 5 things, I shattered them 5. I didn't just break them. I shatter them. Oh, don't do that? Oh, I doing that big time. Like to me, that it's like you can't, I would not be able to argue that these were mistakes. These were intentional to show that I do not care about what you have to say. I can handle, bro, everything you telling me I can't handle, I could handle. You telling me you know better than me, but you don't. I know better than you. You know, that's action. You know, they say actions speak louder than words. That is the message that Solomon's actions was given off. That he does not need God because he can instruct himself. He can take care of himself, right? And in the end, it ended up costing him the kingdom, you know, and it may, God forbid, but I hope not, but it may have cost him his salvation.
Solomon broke the laws that a king should follow, and the consequences followed as promised. Solomon had many wives, women of different nations, and in his old age, they turned his heart away from God. And as a result, more than 90% of his kingdom was stripped away. But we'll talk more about that on the next episode of A Breath of Fresh Air. Tonight's episode included voice acting by Ayana Albertson Gay, as well as your host, Nakhaz Gay. Remember to go ahead and research on your own in order to get a more firm understanding of tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. You can follow us on social media at A Breath of Fresh Air Pod on Instagram and BOFAPOD on Twitter. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you next week.